How many of you are familiar with the TV show MacGyver from the 80s?
Wow.
All right. There's a few people who aren't, so some of you are in for a treat because MacGyver is one of the most phenomenal human beings on the planet. The premise for his 60-minute show is always the same. He's a secret agent with an impossible mission, but he has this really uncanny ability to take kind of common objects from his everyday surroundings and turn them into these creative solutions. Like he's created jet skis from a coffin, and he's disarmed a nuclear bomb using a safety pin. And in one of my favorite episodes, he's disguised as a homeless person investigating the death of a priest, and he creates this long-distance bomb using a rubber glove, a gas pipe, a light bulb, and just some shards from an old toilet bowl. He's revered as an icon for ingenuity, creativity, and resourcefulness. And if you watch all of the episodes, like I have and you're a big fan, and you deconstruct his actions, there are 4 things that enable his success, and I call them the 4 enablers of creativity. First, he's a doer. So it's easy to sidestep creativity by quibbling over objectives, particularly when you're doing something new and you can be really uncomfortable with that ambiguity. So MacGyver works through that ambiguity with action. He's a maker. He could discuss and weigh out all his options. He could create a risk trade-off matrix, or he could learn by doing. And second, his resources are always well-defined. One of the first things we do at the beginning of every design project is figure out what we know and what we don't know. We create constraints. And I think this is contrary to what we associate with creativity, which is very blue sky, open thinking, no rules. It's actually the application of constraints and employing a process for creativity that drives his innovation. And 3, his goal is clear and his deadline is imminent. For MacGyver, the bomb is always ticking down. Doom is imminent. And I feel like it's probably that same feeling we get the night before a big presentation when you have that creative adrenaline rush at 2 in the morning. Sometimes you need that sense of doom, or you need that pressure to drive action. And 4, he doesn't have to ask for permission. So imagine with 15 seconds left on the bomb if MacGyver had to get clearance to use a set of pliers. It's really about creating an enabling environment, tools on hand, time for creativity, space for creativity, and diversity in thought that enables his success. So at the same time, there's also a bunch of websites devoted to debunking MacGyver's ingenuity, but he's not entirely a fictional character. This is another great example of ingenuity, creativity, and entrepreneurship coming out of Rwanda. It's a simple LED light that I bought for 800 Rwandan francs, about $1.25. And it's not much, it's just some repurposed wood, some wire, some LEDs up there, and there's some spent batteries from a flashlight that have been repurposed. But this isn't a solution that will produce IP, but it's one of the most prominent sources of lighting in rural Rwanda, which makes up 95% of the country's population. And I think it's a great example of how creative individuals have worked within the local context to produce solutions to their needs. Between 70 to 95% of Africa's creative economy's economic output comes from the SMEs, comes from these local MacGyvers. And these are just local craftsmen working entirely under the radar, using their creative wits to survive. So I come from Silicon Valley. In my previous career, I worked as a product design consultant, working on latest and greatest technologies for American households, all for these companies that wanted to build these reputations for innovation. But the irony is, I see more innovation coming out of what we call the developing world, or these informal sectors, where innovation is born every day out of constraints and necessity. In these places, you have these broad and meaty challenges like access to electricity, cross-cultural barriers, the digital divide. And they're addressing these challenges in new ways, new models, and new methods that are poised to leapfrog anything we can come up with in Silicon Valley. And so the question I have for the audience today is, how might we as businesses leverage this global creative economy to A, maybe enable creativity within our own companies, but maybe what's more important, I think, is B, to enable or support economic development in some of these emerging economies.